I tried to complete Willow's task 5 times. Each time, I appeared as a different version of myself, but each time, I was still an unbelievably handsome guy. On the final attempt, she looked down at me from above and said, "George, stop pretending. I'd recognize you even if you turned to ash. Honestly, even if I jumped off here, I still wouldn't be with you." I was speechless. I resigned myself to waiting for the system's inevitable reset, but when I woke up again, the system asked me, "Host, would you like to change your target?" Chapter 1. I stood before the mirror, examining my appearance. Just like the previous 5 times, I looked stunning. What was more crucial, though, was that this time was different from the past. I wasn't the usual pretty boy anymore. Now, I had a tall, broad-shouldered, muscular build, definitely the image of a tough guy. Even I had to admit, I'd want to hug my own leg if I were anyone else. Surely Willow would fall for this, right? Then I heard her voice from the previous life, sharp and resolute. "George, stop pretending. I'd recognize you even if you turned to ash. Honestly, even if I jumped off here, I still wouldn't be with you." It was those words that sealed my fate and marked the failure of my 5th attempt. 3 days later, I died in a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, I was David. Yes, that's my name now. 23 years old, a recent college graduate, and just another corporate drone. Chapter 2. I lay on the couch for a while before the system finally showed up. This was our 6th collaboration. At this point, we were old partners. It said, "Host, I had to attend a meeting at headquarters. That's why I'm late." I didn't really care. I had nothing else to do. The system continued. "How's your body? Sorry about how you died in the last life. It was a bit tragic, but it was the quickest and most direct method. This time, let's really work on the plan." I don't believe we can't win over Willow. The system kept talking in my head. I had heard the same speech 5 times before, so I wasn't expecting much. Suddenly, it asked in confusion, "Wait, what's this? Why is there an extra option for the target? Anna, isn't she Willow's best friend?" Hearing the system's alarmed voice, I looked at the virtual screen before me in surprise. Sure enough, this time, things were different. As the system had mentioned, there was now an extra name listed as a target, Anna. What was going on? Did this mean I could choose between the 2 of them now? Chapter 3. After a long pause, the system's voice, now tinged with excitement, rang in my head again. "Hey, host, guess what? Starting this month, the system has undergone some reforms. Now, for the mission targets, you can choose one from 2 options." Sorry, I fell asleep during the meeting this afternoon. I just asked my colleagues and figured it out. So, how about it? Do you want to change your target this time? Anna seems pretty attractive too, but you know, beautiful women are hard to deal with. I've got some psychological trauma from that. It wasn't just the system that had psychological trauma, honestly. I had it too, being killed 5 times in a row, experiencing a range of normal and abnormal deaths like terminal illnesses, shootings, and car accidents. I was honestly scared now. In the past, I might have held on to some naive hope that Willow would eventually fall for me, but now, all I wanted was to survive. Chapter 4. I didn't know Anna too well, but we'd had a few interactions. After all, I had been chasing after Willow since I was 16, and Anna, being one of Willow's best friends, was often around. Unlike Willow, who was the shining school beauty adored by all, Anna had a noble background. The boys knew her identity and were often intimidated by her, keeping their distance. In the capital, the Sioux family was a prestigious family, and Anna was their only daughter. Her status was clear. I wasn't sure what kind of man Anna was into, so I spent the entire weekend at home, reviewing every encounter I had with her in my past lives. When I reviewed the timelines of my past selves, I was surprised to find that, in every life, I had some form of interaction with Anna, though sometimes it was brief. In my first life, we went to the same school. I was in my 2nd year of high school, while she and Willow were both in their 1st year and shared a class. At the time, I had just been bound to the system and was tasked with pursuing Willow. I practically showed up at their classroom door every day. Sometimes I brought Willow water, sometimes fruit, and sometimes the latest comics. But Willow, being proud and aloof by nature, didn't really acknowledge me after a whole semester of my efforts. Anna, seeing my failure, couldn't stand it anymore. She nudged Willow's arm and joked softly, "Willow, seriously, this senior is so excellent and considerate, and most importantly, he's super handsome. If you're not into him, I might have to step in and take him." When Willow didn't respond, Anna turned to me and said, "Senior, how about you stop chasing her and come after me instead? I'm much easier to win over." Another reason no one chased Anna was because she was a real tough girl. She practiced free fighting and taekwondo, and once, when some boys tried to mess with her, she single-handedly beat them up with a bench, making them run for their lives. The time I remembered her the most was when I followed the system's suggestion to play the hero and rescue Willow, who was trapped by thugs in an alley. I shouted angrily to draw attention, and while they let Willow go, they surrounded me instead. Willow fled in panic, leaving me dumbfounded. At that moment, Anna happened to pass by. Without a word, she charged up and stood in front of me. With her head held high, she glared fiercely at the thugs and said, "I'm giving you 3 seconds to run, otherwise, I won't be so polite. This George here is under my protection. If anyone dares to touch a hair on him, I'll make sure to skin them alive." The leader didn't recognize her, and after hearing her dramatic words, he sneered. He immediately called his tough brothers for backup. Anna tied up her hair, rolled up her sleeves, and put on a face like she was ready to sacrifice herself. I was still stunned when she grabbed my hand tightly and said, "Hurry, George, run." That afternoon, Anna dragged me through the alleys of the East District, escaping like our lives depended on it. Fortunately, in the end, there was no real danger. Before the college entrance exams, I decided to take a gamble and confess to Willow. She immediately rejected me. The system judged my attempt a failure, and by the first week of summer vacation, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The illness progressed so quickly that I didn't even make it to the exams before I died. In my second life, I became their peer. Willow and Anna were both top students and went to the same top 3 university. I resumed my pursuit of Willow, as usual. Even though I was in a new body with a new face, she still remained cold and indifferent to me. Because of her fair skin and natural beauty, there were even more boys chasing her in university. As expected, I was still the biggest simp. The entire first year passed, and Willow remained distant. I was starting to get discouraged, and even began to suspect she might be a lesbian. So, I decided to ask Anna about it, only to find that the two had seemingly stopped talking. Strange, hadn't they been really close in high school? Could it be some kind of fake friendship? During the summer break, I went back to the capital. Yes, my second identity was also from the capital. One day, while I was wandering around a bookstore, I ran into a familiar face. I impulsively greeted her, calling out, "Anna." She looked up, her peach blossom eyes filled with confusion. It suddenly hit me, she didn't recognize me at all in this identity. Even though we were at the same university, I had never spoken to her before. I awkwardly explained, "Well, we go to the same university. I'm Gunyenbai from the law department." She nodded, though her attitude was a bit cold. While I was paying at the checkout counter, a child bumped into me. As I bent down to pick up my book, a slender hand beat me to it. Looking up, I realized it was Anna. Instead of immediately handing me the book, she kept staring at the comic for a long time. I said, "Thank you." After a while, she handed the book to me with a complex expression on her face. I thought something was off. She looked like she was shrouded in a kind of hopeless sadness, almost as if something tragic had happened in her life. This was the only time I interacted with Anna in my second life, because not long after, I confessed to Willow and was erased by the system once again. This time, I was shot in the head by a ruthless thug during a weekend shopping trip. In my third and fourth lives, I had more interactions with Anna, and they were more significant than in the second life. It was probably because Willow and Anna's friendship had been restored. When the 5th mission started, both of them had already graduated and returned to the capital, starting their careers. That night, the young heirs of wealthy families went camping in Chiefing Mountain. I went too, and confessed to Willow on a cliff. As I nervously awaited her answer, Willow's cold, detached voice rang out, "George, stop pretending. Stop being a simp. I'd recognize you even if you turned to ash. Honestly, even if I jumped off here, I still wouldn't be with you." In that moment, it felt like I had been struck by lightning. George was my name in my first life. It turned out Willow had known from the very beginning that I was a mission target. For the past 5 lives, I had been nothing more than a clown in front of her, jumping around, dying, jumping again, dying again. Or perhaps, to her, I was more like a monster caught in a never-ending loop. After Willow exposed my identity, I wandered down the mountain, dazed. It was clear that this life's mission had failed again. I knew the system would soon erase me, though I had no idea how I would die this time. As the sense of impending doom loomed over me, I was overcome with a deep sense of fear and despair. Willow had discovered I was a mission target. There was no way I would succeed this time, unless she lost her memory. Panicking, I called out to the system, but there was no response. Just then, a car drove past and stopped beside me. The back window rolled down, and I recognized the person inside, Anna. In the 5th life, our interactions had increased, and we were at least on nodding terms. Perhaps that was why she had the driver stop. She asked, "Why are you leaving so early?" I took a deep breath, calmed myself, and nodded, replying with a simple "mm." She added, "It takes at least 4 hours to walk down the mountain. Do you want a ride?" I didn't really want to take the car. First, even though we had interacted for 5 lives, I still wasn't very familiar with Anna. Second, I knew I was about to die soon, and if the system had planned for me to be crushed by a falling meteorite while in her car, I didn't want to drag her into it. It sounded absurd, but after being shot in a mall by a thug, I realized any kind of death could happen to me. So, I politely declined. Anna furrowed her brows, looked at me seriously, and said, "I should warn you, there are tigers and wolves up on this mountain." Her words made me change my mind and get in the car. No other reason. Really, I just didn't want to risk being eaten alive. Chapter 5. Once I got into the car, I remained silent. Anyone in my position would be in a low mood. Anna was quiet too, maybe she wasn't feeling great either. Not long after, my phone rang. It was Willow calling. I hesitated, but eventually, I pressed the accept button and held the phone to my ear. She asked, "Did you leave?" I could tell she was asking just to confirm. I rubbed my forehead and replied, She continued, "George." She called me by my original name. Her tone cold and distant. She said, "Can you stop coming after me? Please stay away. You're really starting to annoy me. I hope tonight will be the last time we see each other. Just, let it be." Without another word, she hung up. All I felt was deep helplessness, a kind of inexplicable defeat. I didn't know where I had gone wrong. I'd been chasing Willow for 8 years. From my first life to my 5th, starting with all the enthusiasm and determination, only to end up worn out, passive, and disillusioned. I'd switched identities so many times, with no family and no friends. I was like a lonely zombie wandering through the world. I didn't know when it happened, but it felt like my heart had grown wild grass, desolate and barren. What was even more tragic was that this life would continue endlessly. There would never be an end. Chapter 6. Then, a tissue was handed to me from the side. It was only then that I realized a tear had fallen from my eye without warning. I was speechless. What was wrong with me? I immediately felt embarrassed. Anna must think there's something wrong with my head, so I quickly told her, "Just drop me off at the bus stop at the bottom of the mountain." She didn't respond, but after a while, as we were nearing the bus stop, Anna suddenly asked, "Do you know any good places to get a late-night snack?" I didn't quite catch it at first and asked, "What?" She pressed her lips together and said, "I'm a little hungry." I should have known better, but for someone like Anna, the daughter of the Sioux family, how could she not know where to get a late-night snack? She hesitated for a moment, then explained, "I suddenly want to eat barbecue, but I haven't had it in a long time. The places I used to go to have all closed down." No wonder. This wasn't hard for me to solve. I quickly directed her to a street-side barbecue shop. Just as I was about to leave, she called me back and asked, "Do you want to join me?" Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of barbecue. I didn't want to risk getting a sore throat, so I smiled and shook my head, saying, "Thanks, but I'm not hungry." She immediately responded, "But it's a bit weird to sit here alone." A real aristocratic lady, elegant and proud. I had no choice but to sit with her. She ordered a lot of food, and at first, I thought she must have been really hungry, but she ate very little, and almost always with a frown, as if she was struggling to enjoy it. It seemed she couldn't handle spicy food very well. In the end, I noticed her discomfort and said, "If you don't want to eat it, don't force yourself. It'll upset your stomach." Anna quietly took a sip of water, then unexpectedly asked, "Where are you going after this?" I replied, "Of course, I'm going home." I had the feeling Anna was trying to make small talk. She seemed to feel the same, nodding and saying, "Well, I don't have anything to do tonight, and I was thinking of having Uncle Lee take me for a drive. Would you like me to drop you off?" I really didn't need it, but she insisted. In the end, I couldn't refuse. An hour later, the car reached my neighborhood. I opened the door and got out, saying to her, "Thank you, Sue miss. Please be careful on your way back." She nodded, but didn't respond. I walked a few steps before I suddenly realized that I hadn't given Anna my address. That was strange. How did she know where I lived? I turned around to check. The driver hadn't started the car, and Anna was still sitting in the back, looking out the rear window at me. The sight reminded me of the time in my second life when we had met at the bookstore. Her eyes looked just like they did back then, filled with a kind of sadness. It made me feel inexplicably melancholic. I paused for a moment, waved at her, and then turned to walk away. That was the last time I would interact with Anna in this life. 3 days later, I died in a car accident. I was run over by a heavy truck on a busy street. Chapter 7. I decided to change my mission target to Anna. The system asked if I was sure. I said, "I have no choice. You couldn't make Willow lose her memory, so this is my only option. I really don't want to die again like that." The system sighed. "I'm sorry, but in order to restart as quickly as possible, the best way is through a sudden disaster. Although it's painful, at least it's brief." I understood the system's reasoning. After all, no matter how you die, it's going to hurt. The only way to avoid pain was to succeed in the mission. I opened the Sue family group's official website and, to my surprise, found they were hiring. So I submitted several resumes and waited for about half a month before finally receiving an interview notification. Chapter 8. Monday morning. I arrived at the Sue Group office building, dressed in a black suit, with the Starbucks next door serving as my waiting spot. After half an hour, I finally received a message from the system. It said, "The target will appear in 10 minutes. Host, you can go in now." I took a deep breath, grabbed my folder, and entered the luxurious office building. The security guard checked my interview notice and handed me a magnetic pass card. As expected from a top Asian 500 company, the security was top-notch. I walked slowly through the lobby, when suddenly, a commotion came from the entrance. I looked up. The woman leading the group was wearing a black dress, her eyes gleaming like rippling water, her brows delicate and elegant. Flanking her were several men in their 50s, likely veteran managers of the group. They all walked beside her with humble expressions, nodding in agreement every so often. I'd never seen Anna with such an imposing aura. She was like the moon surrounded by stars, so radiant that it was hard to look directly at her. But it made sense, she was now the princess of Sue Group. Of course, she had changed. The system interrupted my thoughts. "Host, what are you daydreaming about? She's about to enter the elevator, go now." I hesitated and said, "Is this the right moment? Her preferences might have changed by now. Maybe we should rethink the strategy." The system shot back. "Don't be a coward. You've come all this way. And this is a perfect opportunity. Do you think meeting the female CEO is easy? If you don't talk to her now, you'll never move forward." I sighed, realizing the system was likely obsessed with female CEO romance tropes. But just as the elevator doors were about to close, I dashed forward. Chapter 9. Inside the elevator, Anna's cold voice rang out. "How's the Smart City project coming along?" While the men chatted among themselves, I sneaked a glance at her. It had only been a few months since we last met, but she looked a bit thinner. Maybe she was overworked, but to be honest, her figure was still perfect. The black dress accentuated her curves. C-cup, no, definitely D-cup. Her makeup had also completely changed. Her lips were a deep wine red, and her eyes, once soft, now sported a sharp smoky eye look, elegant and fierce. The only thing unchanged was her face. It hadn't aged a bit. Suddenly, memories from our second year of high school flashed in my mind. We were running hand in hand through the alleys of the East District, and I could still hear her words. "You've got 3 seconds to run, or I'll make you regret it. This George is under my protection. If anyone dares touch a hair on him, I'll skin them alive." Time flies. 8 years had passed in the blink of an eye. I sighed to myself, and then, our eyes met. Chapter 10. In that brief moment of eye contact, I felt a wave of nervousness. Before I could react, Anna casually shifted her gaze. I almost forgot, she wouldn't recognize me as I am now. How silly of me. I forced a bitter smile and shook my head, realizing the whole elevator was staring at me. It hit me, had I been staring at Anna too obviously? A man in his 50s, with a Mediterranean hairstyle and glasses, asked sternly, "Son, which department are you from?" I had no choice but to answer honestly. "I'm here for an interview." He raised an eyebrow. "The interview is on the 3rd floor. This is the 26th. The elevator doors chimed, opening to reveal the golden-lettered sign, "General Manager's Office." I had no words. I apologized, and when Anna stepped out, the others followed. Chapter 11. Though I had seen Anna, it felt like nothing had happened. The system murmured in my head. "I have a feeling Anna is even harder to approach than Willow. Focus on the interview. Just getting into Sue Group gives you a 50% chance of success with her." But things didn't go according to plan. 3 days later, I received the rejection call for my interview. Honestly, I had expected it. The competition had been fierce. 2/3 of the candidates were overseas returnees from prestigious universities, and the rest were from China's top 3 universities. As for me, I was just an average 211 graduate, hardly impressive, but it didn't matter. After 5 lives spent chasing Willow, I knew a thing or two about Anna's likes and schedule. Getting a casual encounter was far from difficult. Chapter 12. On the 6th night at the Queen's Club, I finally got a breakthrough. Willow and several other wealthy girls arrived shortly, and Anna showed up not long after. Of course, this was one of their regular hangouts. But soon, I found myself in a dilemma. Every time these girls came, they almost always gathered in a private room on the 3rd floor. Tonight was no exception. I felt a bit deflated. Getting into the private room seemed nearly impossible. So I decided to sit casually in the lobby and observe. I ordered a martini and tried to pass the time. Suddenly, I saw Willow coming down from the 3rd floor, finding a seat by the window. Odd. She never liked these kinds of environments, but tonight, she seemed to be in the mood for it. "Willow, looking more stunning than usual, sat there like a glowing LED light. Soon, a man approached her, perhaps in a good mood. Willow didn't reject him, but after a while, her attitude grew distant. The man noticed and left, only for another to take his place. This cycle repeated a few times. I started to suspect Willow was going through something big, but honestly, I wasn't on a mission to approach her now, so I didn't care much. I shifted my attention. Wait, when did Anna come down? This was my chance. Just as I prepared to approach her, she accidentally spilled her drink on another man. She apologized, and the man responded politely. In that brief exchange, they started talking. I was stunned. I could tell from a mile away that this was no accident. Anna had done that on purpose. Did she like this guy? The man had just spoken with Willow, and now he was chatting with Anna. What was going on? I sat back, utterly confused. Anna was into this type of gentleman. Great. There went my muscle points. As I continued to observe, the conversation ended, and the men walked away, disappointed. I relaxed and decided to act, but before I could make my move, Anna spilled another drink on yet another man. What was happening? Was this a new form of play for these women? I shook my head in disbelief. Eventually, the men tried to add Anna on WeChat but was rejected. Anna seemed somewhat disappointed herself, wandering through the crowd, searching for something or someone. I followed her. She was heading for the elevator, likely to return to the private room. I quickly walked over, ready to catch up, but then, a waiter carrying a tray stumbled, and Anna stepped back, accidentally stepping on my toe. Pain shot through me, and my phone dropped, cracking the screen. That was when fate stepped in. Anna apologized to the waiter, checked he wasn't hurt, and quickly moved on. I bent down to pick up my phone, nursing the pain. Before I could even react to this awkward moment, Anna was already rushing off with another woman, Emma, handing her a wad of cash. She handed it to me with a cold sorry and didn't even look at me. They quickly disappeared into the elevator. I had to admit, the system had been right. Anna was even harder to deal with than Willow. Damn, would I ever catch a break? Chapter 13. I walked out of the clubhouse. Both the system and I were silent. A week of surveillance, plus the effort of a whole evening. And yet, we got nothing. Anna probably didn't even get a good look at me. At this rate, how long would it take to win her over? Not to mention, each mission has a time limit, and judging by how Anna treated me tonight, it was clear, I'm just not her type. I asked. System, do you even understand women? Could you at least add more settings besides just the appearance when arranging my identity? The system sounded equally helpless as it responded. Bro, if you want to romance a female CEO, you need the warm male, pretty boy persona. I didn't even give you the puppy dog setup, and you're still complaining. And look at the model I gave you, you don't even need to look in a mirror. This figure, this way of dressing, it's slim when clothed and toned when undressed. You could be a top model or debut with this look. What else do you want? Can't help it if the women you're targeting are all a bit eccentric. I was speechless. So frustrating. Before I knew it, I had walked into a bookstore. It was the same one I used to frequent. My gaze unintentionally fell on a poster on the glass window, and I was instantly excited, rushing in to ask, Boss, has The Eye of the Demon King Season 10 been released? The chubby owner glanced at me and nodded. Yes, it just arrived yesterday. I felt elated. What perfect timing. I quickly went to the last row of bookshelves, and in no time found a fresh stack of beautifully bound manga volumes. At last, I had something to do tonight. While paying, I noticed that the store's interior seemed different from before. They must have renovated, and they even started selling coffee now. When did that happen? So thoughtful. Boss, can I get an espresso and sit over there to read? The boss looked me over seriously, then nodded again, saying, Sure, but you'll need to pay for the book first. I replied, Of course. On this chilly autumn evening, a cup of coffee, sitting in a corner of the bookstore reading manga, this felt rather cozy. If I remembered correctly, The Eye of the Demon King had started serializing when I was in the third year of junior high, with a new volume released every year. It's been ongoing for 10 years now. I wonder when it'll finally end. Probably one of those, in our lifetimes, series. As a loyal reader, I wanted to see the conclusion sooner, but I didn't want it to end too quickly either. Such a conflicting feeling. Chapter 14. I don't know how much time passed, but by the time I finished my second cup of coffee, it was getting late. It was time to head home. I closed the book and absent-mindedly looked up, only to freeze. Anna, what was she doing here? Wasn't she at the Queen's Club? Outside the window, a woman in a beige dress was silently gazing at me. Her eyes were distant. I wondered how long she'd been standing there. I suddenly remembered 3 months ago, when I failed my 5th attempt at targeting Willow. She had looked at me in the same way, with a gaze both distant and deep, maybe sensing my response. Anna lowered her gaze, and walked into the bookstore. Chapter 15. What a coincidence, this was the perfect opportunity, and I couldn't let it slip by. I straightened up and hurried to discuss strategy with the system. I asked, "System, are you there? What are you doing?" Complete silence in my mind. I was really fed up. The system always glitches at critical moments. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Anna walking to the last row of bookshelves, seemingly looking for manga. Maybe I should just walk over and corner her for her contact info. No, that's too cheesy. Or, should I trip her and then catch her as she falls? No, that's a dumb idea. She might slap me again, and then I'd be done for. I leaned against the wooden counter by the window, idly flipping through my book, trying to think of a better plan. I didn't realize Anna had already walked up to me, standing just about 50 or 60 centimeters away. She started flipping through the same manga I was reading. It was The Eye of the Demon King. By the way, I had recommended this book to Willow back in high school, and a lot of the girls in her class ended up getting hooked on it too. I suddenly felt a bit nervous. This was strange. I had never felt this way when I was pursuing Willow. Why was I so nervous now? My heart was racing. I glanced at my coffee cup. Then, gritting my teeth, I thought, fine, I'll do what she did last time. The next moment, just as I was about to sweep my elbow toward the coffee cup, I heard a crash. The cup shattered. I froze, staring at the pieces of the cup scattered on the floor. When I looked up, I locked eyes with Anna's bright, clear peach blossom eyes. She looked apologetic and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." I instinctively shook my head and bent down to pick up the broken pieces of the cup. "It's fine," I replied. Anna also squatted down. The distance between us closed instantly. Her rose-colored lips, her petite, delicate nose, right in front of me. I suddenly understood the floral fragrance, often described in novels about female leads. It was faint, yet captivating, like the white lily in the morning, with a touch of refreshing dew, or the jasmine of early spring, exuding a subtle, sweet fragrance, not overwhelming, yet not too faint. It was intoxicating. I felt a surge of unease inside, but I didn't know why. After cleaning up the broken pieces, I asked the owner how much it would cost. If I broke something, I had to pay for it. The owner seemed to glance at Anna behind me and said, $7.80. I thought I misheard. How much? The owner explained with some regret. Sorry, kid. This cup was custom made by a master overseas, so that's the price. I was speechless. Just because he said it was from an overseas master, that made it a premium product. I thought he was pulling my leg. The owner seemed to sense my skepticism and sighed deeply. If you don't believe me, you can look it up online. I've got order numbers and shipping confirmation. 3 minutes later, I was convinced. Turns out, I was the fool. I couldn't believe that cup really cost that much. I resigned myself to paying. Just then, a woman's voice interrupted. Anna said, "This cup was broken by me, so I should be the one to pay, not this gentleman." She looked at me, her tone gentle, and continued, "Sir, I didn't bring any cash or phone with me. Could you please help me pay first? I'll transfer the money to you later." Her attitude was much softer than the one she had at the Queen's Club earlier, and she was looking right at me with those soft, watery eyes. Her suggestion was too good to resist, especially since I was currently trying to win Anna over, so I gladly agreed. Of course, after I paid, Anna naturally asked, "By the way, sir, what's your phone number?" I gave her a string of digits. She seemed a bit unsure, so she borrowed the store owner's phone to dial it. When my phone rang, Anna finally relaxed. Once she confirmed the number was correct, she seemed to remember something and asked, "Sir, what's your last name?" I froze for a moment, then finally replied, "My surname is Wang, David." She looked at me with bright eyes, half hope, half hesitation, and softly asked, "Mr. Wang, I'm so sorry about the coffee earlier. Could I give you a ride home as an apology?" As soon as she said that, her face flushed a deep red, but her eyes were brighter than stars, filled with soft sunshine. In that moment, I completely forgot whether I was the one pursuing her or if she was pursuing me. Chapter 16. 3 months later, I was once again in the red Ferrari. This time, unlike before, I wasn't feeling defeated or hopeless. I was completely relaxed. After 6 attempts at the mission, I finally saw a glimmer of hope. Anna turned on the car's stereo, and a song I loved years ago began playing. The song Aliez. The volume wasn't loud, but the familiar melody lifted my spirits, as if it cleared away all the frustrations of the past. I turned to find Anna looking at me, her expression serene and gentle. When our eyes met, she quickly lowered her head and softly said, "By the way, Mr. Wang, I haven't told you my name yet." I casually nodded and replied, "I know, Anna Sue." She looked up at me in surprise and asked, "You know?" I suddenly remembered I hadn't explained, so I said, "Last week, I went for an interview at Sue Group. I saw you in the elevator." Anna seemed slightly taken aback. Clearly not following my train of thought, she furrowed her brow and asked, "Sue Group?" I nodded and replied, "Yes, the elevator on the 26th floor." Finally, she seemed to recall, and her expression softened. I continued, "And tonight, at the Queen's Club, we met again. You accidentally stepped on my foot, and I dropped my phone. Don't you remember?" Anna was speechless. Well, it turns out that before our chance meeting at the bookstore, all my previous attempts had been a waste. She had no memory of any of it. Anna pouted, unsure whether to feel embarrassed or something else. She softly asked, "I'm sorry, did your foot really hurt? Should we go to the hospital for an x-ray? And the phone? I'll buy you a new one." I sighed. Typical of the Sue family's eldest daughter, money was no object. I replied, "It's nothing, and you've already compensated me for the phone, remember." I pulled out the stack of bills from my bag. Anna looked at the money, and a look of regret flashed in her eyes. She pouted even more. The atmosphere felt a bit awkward. We continued driving, and soon we arrived at the building where I was renting. Anna seemed like she wanted to say something, but she hesitated. I knew tonight's conversation was about to come to a close. I waved at her with a polite smile and said, "Thank you, Miss Sue, for the ride. It's late, so be sure to get home safely." Chapter 17. On Saturday, I received the notification that I had successfully passed the interview with Sue Group. They said if it was convenient for me, I could start work on Monday. I was absolutely thrilled. The system, however, was a bit confused. It asked, "What's going on? Weren't you rejected by them before?" While I was brushing my teeth, I explained to the system what had happened last night. It was taken aback. "Wait, are you serious? I was offline for just a bit, and you've already made so much progress," I replied. "You weren't offline for just a bit, you were offline for an entire night." "Okay," it responded. "Ah, come on, don't sweat the details." I didn't expect Anna to be this easy to win over. "Looks like we finally picked the right target this time," I answered. It was bound to happen. On Sunday morning, I was still half asleep when I suddenly received a call. The person on the other end claimed to be the HR manager from Sue Group, calling to confirm if I would be able to start work at their company on Monday. After I confirmed, there seemed to be a sigh of relief on the other end. "All right, Mr. Wong, we're looking forward to your arrival. See you on Monday." After hanging up, I couldn't help but marvel. Sue Group was a top company in Asia. The HR manager seemed a bit too eager, calling multiple times to make sure I would show up. Finally, I was about to join the working world. I felt a surge of excitement and opened my wardrobe to pick out something to wear. My new identity was that of a recent graduate, someone fresh out of school and broke. I didn't even have a decent suit, and my shirts were of poor quality. It looked like I would need to go shopping for a couple of suits in the afternoon. Monday, at 8 a.m., I arrived at Sue Group. The HR manager, about 30 years old, Mr. Lin, was the one who had called me on Sunday. He was very polite. However, I didn't expect the position I had applied for to be changed to Anna's assistant. I had originally applied for a legal advisor role. He explained, "The legal department doesn't have an opening at the moment, but our executive office just had an assistant leave. Actually, besides the differences in the job content, the benefits are about the same. Once you join the executive office, you'll be assigned someone to help you get familiar with the work and environment. Mr. Wong, you don't need to worry at all." It seemed like he was really trying to convince me to take the position. I didn't mind at all. If I worked in the executive office, wouldn't that bring me closer to Anna? Chapter 18. The assistant role wasn't very difficult. After just 2 days, I had more or less figured out the job. It mostly consisted of daily tasks, translation work, drafting documents, preparing materials for board meetings, and so on. But strangely enough, I hadn't seen Anna even once after working here for over a week. It wasn't until one day, while having lunch downstairs, that I overheard other employees talking and found out that Anna had gone abroad. Apparently, there had been some issues with the European branch. That made sense. So, I decided to be patient and wait. That afternoon, while I was at my desk reading through Sue Group's corporate culture booklet, I noticed that the bustling atmosphere in the executive office suddenly quieted down. I realized what was happening and looked up. Sure enough, Anna was walking toward me. She was wearing a Hepburn-style velvet jacket with a black V-neck tank top underneath, paired with a high-waisted white skirt. Her figure was long and elegant. She was absolutely stunning. At that moment, she was looking at me with pursed lips, her eyes fixed on me. This cold, powerful CEO look, it was hard for anyone to not be moved. I tried to suppress my excitement, keeping a calm demeanor, and greeted her, "Manager." Then, I watched her walk right up to me, and she asked, "Are you getting used to the job?" I heard her soft, melodious voice, and saw the faint smile on her face, as if the sunlight was reflected in her eyes. Chapter 19. When I got off work and exited the elevator, Luis, the person who was guiding me, curiously asked. David, do you know Ms. Sue from before? I didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble, so I shook my head and said, no, I don't know her, he said. Really? That's odd, I asked. Why? He paused for a moment before answering. I might not be supposed to gossip, but honestly, today Anna was acting strangely. I've been here for 3 years, and I've never seen her smile. She's always been frowning, to put it bluntly. It was like she'd just lost her husband. He stopped for a moment, then leaned in and lowered his voice, like she was mourning someone. He continued. But today, she smiled, and she seemed in a great mood. She didn't even yell at anyone. I was speechless. What? Anna would yell at people? I asked. She doesn't seem like the type to yell at people. Luis nodded seriously. I'm not making this up. Don't be fooled by her gentle appearance. When she's angry, her words can be sharp, even without curse words. You'll have to see it for yourself. Every time she comes back from the European branch, all the senior managers here look like they've just been scolded. But today, everyone was in a good mood. No one got scolded. You can tell she's in a good mood, he also added. Lily, her secretary, said Anna went straight to the office as soon as she landed. She didn't even go home. 12 hours on a flight, with jet lag, and she came straight to work. Quite unusual, right? Besides, the only notable change recently is your arrival, so I was just wondering. Before Luis could finish, he suddenly stopped, staring at something behind me. I didn't say anything, because a red Ferrari had just pulled up in front of us. The door opened, and Anna stepped out, walking directly toward me. She seemed a bit angry and asked, "Why didn't you accept my WeChat friend request?" She was looking at me, and I was completely taken aback. I was caught off guard. Huh? She repeated. I added you on WeChat, but you didn't accept. I quickly took out my phone and checked, and sure enough, the request was still pending. I apologized. Sorry, I've been busy this afternoon and didn't get a chance to check. Anna nodded slightly. I see. Get in the car. I need to take you somewhere. I could only say goodbye to Luis. All right. See you later, Luis. He awkwardly nodded. Okay, bye. Chapter 20. Anna took me to a mobile phone store in a mall. It was only then that I realized she was buying me a new phone. I was speechless. This really isn't necessary. You've already reimbursed me for the broken one. She turned back with a smile. Consider it a new employee benefit from Sue Group. I was at a loss for words. New employee benefit. Okay. The company was generous. After buying the phone, she casually asked, I'm so hungry. Are you hungry? Was she inviting me to dinner? I quickly responded. Let me treat you to dinner, as a thank you for buying me the phone. Anna's beautiful almond-shaped eyes narrowed slightly, giving off a wet, sensual vibe. After a moment, she raised an eyebrow and said, All right. Anna and I went to a private dining restaurant. This place was well known, and it was basically members only. But just as we reached the second floor, we ran into some familiar faces. Alicia called out. Anna, what a coincidence. We were just wondering why you didn't reply to our messages or answer our calls, and here you are. Anna's expression was faintly indifferent as she asked, How did you end up here? Alicia replied, I came to eat. Willow invited us. Anna, didn't you know? Makoto's back, and he's the one treating us. Willow's been showing off her love life every day. Makoto. The name instantly struck a chord with me. He was Willow's childhood friend. Her first love, the person she had been in love with for years. I had heard about him often. The last time I received a mission to pursue Willow was the year he left for France. And now, after 9 years, he had finally returned. Anna seemed uninterested in what Alicia was saying. She furrowed her brows slightly and said, We'll talk later. Let's go. Alicia seemed puzzled. Anna, weren't you here to eat? Why are you leaving so soon? Wait, is this your boyfriend? Anna gently tugged at my sleeve, signaling that we were about to leave. Just then, I heard the sound of girls laughing and teasing each other behind us. I turned and saw Willow almost immediately. It was no surprise. Anyone chosen by the system to be a target would naturally be extremely good-looking. Her face was stunning, like she had won the genetic lottery. Her seductive and charming beauty was on par with Anna's. As for the man standing next to her, I had never seen him before. He must have been Makoto. He looked handsome, his hair neat, his features sharp. He wore luxurious, high-end tailored suits, and a pricey watch. If the term rich and handsome hadn't been coined yet, it should have been added to the dictionary right at that moment. No wonder Willow had pined for him for so many years. One of the girls waved at us. Anna, hello. Makoto's gaze also shifted toward us. After a brief pause, a look of surprise crossed his face as he said, Anna, is that really you? It seemed that they knew each other. Under these circumstances, Anna naturally couldn't just leave right away. Chapter 21. In the private room, the woman sitting next to Willow spoke up. Anna, I've been wondering why you've been so quiet lately. Turns out you've been out there finding a man behind our backs. Is this your brother-in-law?" The speaker was Mary, Willow's childhood friend. Back when I was pursuing Willow, I had to endure a lot of her sarcastic remarks. Anna glanced at me and replied, "You misunderstood. This is my assistant, David." Mary let out a light laugh, teasing. "Anna, you're really something. Huh? Did you hire a personal trainer as your assistant?" She propped her chin up with one hand, looking at me with a flirtatious expression. "Hey, handsome, would you like to be my personal trainer?" As she spoke, she lightly bit her lip, her gaze sultry. "What Anna's offering, I can offer you too. What do you think?" Mary's behavior made me feel disgusted, but just as I was about to mock her, Makoto spoke. He said, "Anna, how have you been all these years?" Anna didn't even look up, responding, "Fine." Makoto furrowed his brows, then gave a relaxed smile. "You're still the same as you were when we were kids. Not really fond of me," Anna replied. "You're overthinking it," Makoto said. "Since I'm the one overthinking, then last Christmas, when I invited you all to France, why was it that you were the only one who didn't come?" Anna coldly replied. "I had something to do," Makoto scoffed. "What was it? Watching fireworks with someone else?" At this point, it seemed like Makoto had thought of something. He added, "Speaking of which, where's your boyfriend? The one you watched fireworks with last year? Did you two break up?" Anna bit her lip and didn't speak, but I heard something in her silence. Wait a minute, wasn't I the one who watched fireworks with Anna last Christmas? In my 5th life, I was closest to completing my mission, because I had slept with Willow. That's right, it was the 7th year of my pursuit of Willow, and I had died 4 times, by terminal illness, gunshot, drowning, and the final death in a gas explosion at home. God knows how terrified I was of failing my mission again, because I really didn't want to die so miserably. The cause of it all was that Makoto had announced on Instagram that he had found a model girlfriend in France. It was clear that Willow was upset. She almost drowned herself in alcohol at the bar every day. For her safety, I went to the bar every night to get her out. No matter how drunk she was, she would always wake up in my bed the next morning, and I would sleep in the living room like a simp, making breakfast for her. This went on for 3 months, and then Willow kissed me on the lips and slept with me. The next morning, I hurriedly asked the system if I had succeeded in the pursuit. The system slowly replied, "Unfortunately, no, host. Our analysis shows that last night, the target only saw you as a substitute for her first love and didn't actually fall in love with you." I fell silent, saying nothing. Indeed, even at our closest moments, Willow was still murmuring Makoto's name. I had heard it, but I chose to ignore it, thinking that maybe I could complete my mission that way. But I couldn't fool the system, and I certainly couldn't fool myself. Makoto's relationship didn't last long, only 4 months before they broke up. On the day they broke up, he called Willow. She cried bitterly, complaining about Makoto in the phone call as if she were the one who had been dumped. But I knew she was actually crying tears of joy, but I didn't show anything. I didn't get angry or stop her, because I had no standing to do so. Back then, I was the most pathetic simp, doing everything I could to please Willow, spending every holiday with her, buying her expensive luxury gifts even when I couldn't afford them. On Christmas morning, she kissed me several times while holding the bag I bought for her. I secretly rejoiced, thinking she had finally been moved by me. However, that very afternoon, she boarded a flight to France. Without any shame, she told me, "Makoto is there alone. I have to go keep him company." And with that, she left without a second thought. I heard that on that Christmas, she and 5 others went to France to see Makoto. Perhaps it was from that moment that I had a premonition that my 5th attempt at pursuing her was most likely going to fail again. That evening, I went alone to Chifeng Mountain to set off fireworks I had prepared for Willow. Before I left, I made sure to post about it on my social media. But not long after arriving at the mountain, I ran into Anna, who had come up alone. In my 5th life, I wasn't very close to her, but we knew each other. So, we sat together and watched the fireworks. At first, Anna spoke a little, but when she saw I wasn't very responsive, she fell silent. We watched the fireworks for a long time, and by midnight, we made our way down the mountain and went back home. We didn't really stay in touch afterward. The boyfriend she was talking about watching fireworks with, could it have been me? As I pondered this, my phone suddenly rang. It was the landlord. He had called a few days ago, saying his son was getting married and hoped I could find a new place to move out by the end of the month. I answered the phone and said a few words, but as soon as I hung up, I felt something was off. I quickly looked up, meeting Willow's gaze. Her eyes were fixed on me, cold as frost in winter. I suddenly remembered that in the last life, when I failed my mission, Willow had found out about my true identity. I had reviewed everything later and realized that I had overlooked many details that I normally wouldn't pay attention to. Most of them were habits that I had always had, like the books I liked, which I reread every once in a while, like my ringtone, which had always been the same, a song from an anime. Even my catchphrase had stayed the same. It should be like this. Each of these could have led Willow to recognize me. This time, I decided I wouldn't pursue Willow anymore. Nor did I want anything to do with her. I didn't even change my ringtone. At this moment, I wasn't sure if she had already noticed something. Chapter 22. Willow suddenly said to Mary, "Call the waiter." Mary asked, "Why call the waiter?" Willow replied, "I want to order." "But we just ordered," Mary protested. Willow shot her an angry look, and Mary quickly laughed and said, "All right, Willow, don't look at me like that. I'll call now." Soon, the waiter entered. Willow said, "Add 1 serving of abalone for everyone." As expected, Willow was starting to suspect me. Since my second life, I had noticed that I was allergic to abalone. Although I had switched bodies several times, it was always the same. She was doing this on purpose. I clenched the edge of the table, nearly wanting to flip it over in anger. But I heard Anna beside me speak. "We'll pass on that. We're leaving." Willow's eyes turned cold as she said, "The food hasn't even been served yet. Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Anna replied, "I have something to do." "What's that?" Willow asked, clearly irritated. I stood up, met Willow's gaze, and interjected, "That's none of your business. Do I need to report to you about Mr. Sue's matters? What's your position here?" Willow froze for a moment, then frowned and pushed her chair back, walking directly toward me. Her eyes seemed like they could burn holes through me. She said, "Changing tactics, a roundabout strategy." She sneered, her face full of mockery and disdain. Then she snorted and said, "Keep pretending. If you really have guts, don't ever come looking for me again. Apart from me, no one else would understand the meaning behind her words." But unfortunately, Willow was going to be disappointed this time. In this life, unless someone held a knife to my throat, no, even if someone held a knife to my throat, I would never go back to her. Chapter 23. Anna drove me back, and the two of us tacitly avoided mentioning what had just happened. When we arrived downstairs, I was about to get out of the car when I heard her soft voice ask, "Are you looking for a place to live?" I was momentarily stunned. Then I realized she must have overheard that conversation at the table. I said, "Yes. The landlord said his son is getting married next month, so he wants to take back the house." Anna looked at me, cautiously but with hope in her eyes, and said, "If you don't mind, a friend of mine has an empty house in Starshine City." Starshine City, I remembered. "But isn't that a villa district?" I shook my head and said, "That area, I'm not sure if it's suitable." She eagerly interrupted me. "It's rent-free. Just pay for utilities. Actually, whether you pay the utilities or not doesn't matter." She just really hopes someone can help her look after the house. I looked at Anna, an inkling of understanding stirring within me, and nodded. "I'll think about it." She sighed in relief and said, "Okay, I'll wait for your reply." After watching her leave, the system excitedly popped up and shouted in my mind, "Host, I knew the Musselman trick would work. This Anna has good taste. Unlike Willow, who's completely blind. At this rate, you've definitely won her over. Host, please don't die miserably again." "I just can't bear to do it." "I couldn't agree with that," I replied. "Can't bear to do it? Don't be modest. I've seen you when you kill me. You're always quick and ruthless," it replied. "Not true. You don't know how much it hurts me every time." Willow, that pretentious little woman, really just deserves it. Finally, we're rid of her. Anna's sensible, pretty, and knows what's going on. We haven't even started pursuing her yet, and she's already coming to us willingly. I even wonder if she has a system in her head, making her try to pursue you. I thought for a moment and said, "That's not impossible." The system quickly retorted, "Don't be ridiculous. Do you really think there are that many pursuers in this world? If there were any competitors nearby, I'd know." "Right. Let me tell you the truth. On average, only 1 out of 10 million people is a pursuer. There are definitely fewer than 20 pursuers in your country. I just found out today that the chances of being selected by the system were 1 in 10 million. I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky," I said. "But don't you find Anna strange? Everything is going way too smoothly." The system replied, "What's so strange about it? I think she just fell for you at first sight." "I told you, your current shell is a good pick." I sighed and said, "That logic doesn't add up. If it was love at first sight, then how come she doesn't even remember meeting me in the elevator? That shouldn't be the case." The system fell silent for a moment and then responded, "True. So what now?" I replied, "I don't know. Let's just see how it goes." Chapter 24. I politely declined Anna's offer and quickly found a place. Moving in over the weekend, I actually quite enjoyed the daily routine, work, then after-hours gaming with colleagues. Since the last incident, Luis had frequently hinted that if I ever made it big, I should take him along. He still suspected something between Anna and me and often tried to probe for information. I replied, "Man, You're overthinking this. Sue's daughter only gave me a new phone because she broke mine last time. Louise squinted, doubtful. That's it. I nodded. What else? At lunchtime, some colleagues were discussing where to eat when we ran into Lily, the secretary, leaving the office. Louise greeted her warmly. Lily, are you heading for lunch? How about we go together? As soon as the elevator doors closed, my phone buzzed with a WeChat message from Anna. Where are you? I quickly replied. Just going for lunch with some colleagues. Why? After a short pause, she replied. Okay, then added a pout emoji. I realized then, she probably wanted me to ask her to lunch. Chapter 25. It started with 5 or 6 people, but by the time we returned, it was just me and Lily. It seemed like the others had figured something out. Lily came out of Starbucks, holding an espresso and said, Wong, I have a small appetite, and there's still some left. Can you finish it? I shook my head. I'm not a fan of coffee. She smiled awkwardly, brushing her hair. She asked at the right moment. I really admire you. You've settled in so well after such a short time. How's work at the general office? Is it difficult? I smiled. It's fine. Not too hard, she said. Actually, in the company, having more friends opens more doors. If you ever need help, feel free to ask. If I ever run into trouble, I'd like to ask for your advice. Wong assistant, I replied. Thanks, Lily, she said. No problem. After a pause, she suddenly became a bit bashful and said, By the way, I have 2 tickets for a piano concert this Friday. My friend gave them to me, but I'm alone. Would you be free to join me? Lily was pretty, in that cute way, and she was good at navigating situations. I heard she was one of the chairman's favored people. For many men, having a girlfriend like her, someone you could lean on and encourage each other, might be an ideal choice, but for me, it was never going to be. I was about to come up with a polite excuse when the system's voice suddenly interrupted. Host, alert, a target is getting closer. So, I changed my response at the last second. Friday, no problem. I don't have anything planned. Lily's eyes lit up. She said, Really? Will you pick me up then? Should we exchange WeChat? I nodded. Of course. Just as we were about to scan each other's QR codes, Anna appeared beside us. Lily quickly greeted. Good afternoon, Manager Sue. Anna nodded, casually glancing over me, and asked nonchalantly, What are you two doing? Lily explained. Oh, nothing. A friend gave me 2 tickets for a concert, and I was just asking Mr. Wong if he wanted to come. Anna, wearing a black sleeveless high-neck dress, looked cold and aloof. She bit her lip and snorted. Really? Lily nervously nodded, lowering her head, standing quietly by. As the chairman's secretary, she knew how to read the room. She probably sensed Anna's mood shift. Chapter 26. After work on Friday, I was waiting downstairs for Lily. 3 minutes later, I saw Anna instead. Confused, I asked. Where's Lily? She replied. The European branch had a situation. She just boarded a plane to handle it. I asked. Europe? Anna smirked, clearly in a good mood. Yeah, what's wrong? I was speechless. I paused, then said. Just a bit sudden. She opened the car door, smiling. Let's go. Aren't we going to the concert? The system popped up again. Suddenly, I think this girl's pretty scheming. Lily was just inviting you to a concert, and Anna sent her to Europe. Looks like she'll be gone for 2 months. I was speechless. Half an hour later, we arrived at the piano concert. It was packed. Honestly, I didn't know much about music and didn't even recognize the pianist. And what's the difference between listening here and at home? I could have played several rounds of games in the time it took. I pulled out my phone, thinking I should apologize to Lily, but then saw Anna's cold eyes. I froze and muttered. When's Lily coming back? Her voice was cold. Why do you care? I sighed. Couldn't I care? This was all my fault. I hesitated. Actually, before I could finish, she interrupted, pouting. Just listen to the music. Anna looked a bit angry, her eyes darkening again. She turned away, focusing on the performance. Well, I had no choice but to keep quiet, but it seemed I didn't fully close my mouth. Chapter 27. I was woken up by the system. When I opened my eyes, people around me were starting to get up and head for the hallway. I had been sprawled across the chair, completely out, awake. A familiar teasing voice came from beside me. I was mortified. I'd made a fool of myself again, this time in public. As we walked out of the concert hall, my head finally stopped feeling fuzzy, and I awkwardly asked, Why didn't you wake me up? She replied, You were sleeping so soundly. Anna's voice still had a trace of amusement. I couldn't even imagine what the other audience members must have thought. I had nothing to say. We reached my neighborhood, and Anna suddenly furrowed her brows, asking, You live here? She probably thought the place looked shabby. It was an old building, over 30 years old, but I just nodded and murmured, Yeah. After getting out of the car, We said goodbye. Anna, who had seemed about to say something, saw my yawning and simply said, "Get some rest, Mr. Wong." I walked into the dimly lit hallway. The system suddenly spoke. "Host, I want to show you something." I asked. "What is it?" It replied. "You'll see." Suddenly, a screen appeared in front of me. It showed a scene from the concert. There, I was asleep. Anna first poked my face, then my arm, but when I didn't react, she grabbed my hand. She looked nervous but didn't pull away. Instead, she smiled and sat beside me, holding my hand, her gaze tender. The system chimed in. "Did you know? You slept for an hour, and she watched you for almost the entire time." I pondered for a while and said, "Are you saying she's not quite mentally stable?" The system responded. "Seriously, can you not see it? Look at her eyes, they're practically melting. Have you ever seen a crazy person with eyes like that? This girl is head over heels for you." I was speechless. I asked, "Are you sure you're not writing a novel on the side with that metaphor?" The system retorted. "Trust me, Anna's feelings are far from ordinary." I thought it over. Anna had definitely been closing in on me, but some things didn't quite add up. It felt like the truth was just out of reach. Chapter 28. 2 weeks after I moved, a typhoon hit the city. Since my building is old, the facilities were in terrible condition. That evening, I watched helplessly as the aluminum window from the opposite building was blown off the floor. I felt speechless. If I had known this would happen, I would have rented a better place. If this had been in the past, I would have been terrified by the situation. But now, I felt nothing. After all, I had already switched my target for the mission. Why should I be afraid? After washing up, I was ready to go to bed. Just as I was about to drift off, my phone rang. I groaned. Why were people calling at this hour, disturbing my sleep? I turned over and tried to ignore it, but the ringtone kept ringing, shattering my drowsiness. I picked up the phone, irritated, only to find it was Anna on the other end. Her voice was choked with emotion. "Where did you go? Why didn't you pick up my calls? You scared me so much." "I thought you." I was completely confused. "Sue, what's going on?" She sniffled, her voice hoarse but urgent. "I'm downstairs. Come down quickly." I jumped out of bed in shock and grabbed my clothes. Rushing downstairs, I couldn't believe she would drive here in the middle of a typhoon. The winds were howling outside. Was she out of her mind? When I reached her, she was about to get out of the car, but I quickly pushed her back in and slammed the door. I demanded, "What are you doing in this storm?" She pouted, looking slightly pitiful. "I was worried you'd get blown away by the typhoon." I nearly burst out laughing. She was worried about me, a grown man, being blown away by the wind. What was going on in her head? But seeing the tear stains on her face, I couldn't bring myself to scold her. After a while, she calmed down and said, "Shall we go?" I was still a little dazed. "Go where?" She smiled softly. "My place." 40 minutes later, we arrived at Sue's family home, an old manor villa in the city center. A noblewoman came down the stairs, clearly displeased. "Anna, where have you been? Running around in a typhoon like that? Don't you know how to be careful? You scared your grandfather." I froze, not sure how to greet her properly. I awkwardly said, "Good evening, madam." She seemed a bit surprised but smiled. Anna leaned in and whispered, "Mom, this is my assistant, David. I wanted him to stay with us for a few days because the place where he lives isn't safe in this storm." Sue's mother paused for a moment, then smiled. "Oh, David, have you had dinner yet? Would you like me to have the housekeeper prepare something?" I quickly declined. No, I've already eaten. Thank you." She smiled warmly. "Call me auntie. Don't be so polite. Here, it's like your own home." At that moment, a kindly elderly man in a gray cardigan entered the living room. His face was full of concern as he asked, "Anna, are you back?" Anna hurried to him. "Grandpa, I'm back." Sue's grandfather let out a sigh of relief. "Lou, the housekeeper, just told me you were out. You scared me half to death. Why would you go out in this kind of weather?" He turned his attention to me, asking, "Who is this?" Anna repeated, "Grandpa, this is David. He might stay with us for a few days." I greeted him. "Good evening, Sue grandfather." He grinned, clearly pleased, and said, "Ah, a fine young man. You look strong, like a martial arts star. Let me tell you, when I was your age, I could fight 5 men at once." Sue's mother quickly interrupted, "Dad, please don't start with your stories." Sue's grandfather laughed, slapping his forehead. "Ah, my memory isn't what it used to be. Young man, don't mind me." I shook my head quickly. No, you're too kind." Despite it being our first meeting, Sue's grandfather was incredibly warm, showing me around, offering tea, and asking about my life. When he found out that Anna had gone out to find me, he tapped his cane and said, "That's good. David here seems like a decent guy. If it were up to me, he wouldn't just stay a few days, he should stay here for good. There's plenty of space." After all, I was about to explain that we weren't close, but before I could speak, Sue's grandfather interrupted. "Ah, This is your first time at the Sue family home. I don't know what young people like, but I've got a little something for you." Before I could object, he pulled out a small box. "Here, a box of gold bars. They're for you to keep." I froze. Gold bars? Was I in a historical drama? I quickly waved my hands. No, that's too much. I can't accept this." Sue's mother smiled and said, "Don't be shy. He likes giving away gold bars. Just take them." I was dumbfounded. What kind of people were these? Sue's grandfather's face lit up even more, and without hesitation, he handed the box over to me. "I've been saving these for a long time, thinking I'd give them to my granddaughter and her husband one day. But now that I'm older, I'm not sure if I'll still be around to see that day. So I'd like you to keep them for Anna." I was left in shock. Holding the heavy box of gold bars, I almost felt like I had walked into a crazy alternate reality. Chapter 29. So, due to the typhoon, I ended up staying at Sue's house. Anna was an only child, and her family was quite small, just her grandparents, parents, and a few staff members. I stayed in a guest room on the 3rd floor. The system, as usual, was incredibly happy. "See, I told you Anna was into you. She's definitely smitten." I've never seen such an obvious case of love at first sight. I could hear the smugness in its tone. "Trust me, now that she's fallen for you, it's just a matter of time. Do you want me to speed things up and get this to a happy ending?" I rolled my eyes. "This is her home. Is it really appropriate to rush things? What if they kick me out?" The system laughed confidently. "Anna wouldn't dare kick you out. Just look at the way she looks at you. You don't need to do much. A little gesture, and you're golden." I sighed. The system was getting ridiculous. After some time, I realized the blow dryer in my room was broken. So I went out to see if there was a working one elsewhere in the house. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Anna about to knock on it. We froze, staring at each other. I quickly buttoned up my shirt awkwardly and asked, "What's going on?" Anna's cheeks flushed, and she nervously looked away. "The housekeeper made basil soup. I wanted to know if you'd like some." Basil soup? It was one of my favorite dishes. I nodded eagerly. "Sure, I'll just grab a jacket." She smiled and said, "I'll wait downstairs." As I was heading down to the 1st floor, Anna looked at me with concern. "Did you wash your hair? Why didn't you dry it? You could catch a cold." I replied, "The blow dryer's broken, but my hair's short, so it should be fine." She frowned. "That's not right. You should take care of yourself. Come with me. I'm sure the one downstairs still works." Sure enough, the one on the 1st floor was fine. When Anna offered to help dry my hair, the system practically screamed at me, "You have to let her do it. Don't miss this opportunity." I hesitated but finally agreed, and when Anna started drying my hair, it was clear this wasn't just about drying my hair. She was massaging my scalp like she was trying to make it perfect. I joked, "Is this a new form of petting? Are you trying to rub my head like a dog?" Anna stopped for a second, then sheepishly apologized. "Sorry, it's just, I've never touched such short hair before. It feels really soft." I raised an eyebrow. "You've never had a boyfriend before?" She looked down, lost in thought, and said quietly, "No." I smiled. "I see. So I'm your first practice partner." "Huh." She looked up at me, her gaze intense, almost as if she was searching for something in my eyes. She whispered, "Is that okay?" I grinned. "Sure. Practice as much as you want. It's free of charge." She seemed momentarily flustered, her face turning a shade of red. I decided to stop teasing her. After a while, I headed to the dining room, where the housekeeper had prepared the basil soup. The housekeeper smiled and said, "MS. Sue said you like basil soup. I made some for you tonight. I hope it's to your taste." I was stunned. "How did you know I like this?" Anna simply answered, "I guessed." I couldn't believe it. How could she have known? Before I could ask more, she clearly didn't want to elaborate, so I let it go. Chapter 30. The typhoon passed quickly. I was preparing to return to my rental apartment and bid farewell to Sue's grandfather when he insisted I stay longer. He said, "That neighborhood is so old. It could collapse at any moment. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. We have extra rooms, and they're just sitting empty. Who's going to play chess with me if you leave? Listen to Grandpa. Don't go. Just stay here." Even Sue's wife urged me, "You're part of the Sue family now. Living here is completely reasonable. Don't feel burdened." It was the kind of hospitality you couldn't refuse. Despite my unease, I couldn't resist their strong insistence. Eventually, Sue's grandfather agreed to let me leave once I found a safer place. So, I stayed at Sue's house. Every day, I rode in their car to work, no longer having to cram into the subway or rush for the bus. Living in a bright, spacious house, with perfectly balanced meals made from fresh ingredients, was a huge improvement in my life. But of course, there's always a downside. I began to notice that every time I left the house, Sue's grandfather became very anxious, and the driver would follow me closely. One time, when the driver had to accompany Anna on a trip, Sue's grandfather hired a slender bodyguard for me. I wasn't sure if he was there to protect me or if I was supposed to protect him. The weirdest part was that even when I went to the bathroom, The bodyguard followed me in, step for step. Another time, when Sue's grandfather had his routine checkup at the hospital, Sue's wife even suggested I accompany him, but I had already submitted my own health certificate before joining the company. It was all getting a little strange. No, scratch that, it was downright bizarre. On a Saturday afternoon, when I insisted I was only going for a walk, the bodyguard still insisted on following me. That was when I couldn't take it anymore and decided to have a frank talk with Sue's wife. Her response surprised me. She sincerely apologized and then led me into Anna's room. And there, I saw myself, a photo from my first life. Chapter 31. At first, after the shock, my body started reacting. I walked stiffly to the desk, trembling as I picked up the frame. It was strange. I couldn't remember when this photo had been taken. Judging by the angle, it seemed like it had been taken secretly. Back then, I was called George, a cheerful, straightforward young man. The face in the photo radiated youthful energy, making anyone who saw it feel nostalgic for the beauty of youth. Sue's wife sighed softly, her voice drifting into my ears. This was Anna's first love, her senior. Unfortunately, he passed away in his senior year from a sudden illness. I heard it was very sudden. She continued, "It's my fault." Before his university entrance exam, Anna was afraid that once he went to college, they'd never see each other again. She wanted to confess her feelings to him, but I advised her to wait, don't disturb his focus before the exam. I said she could confess after he finished the exams, and before she could, he was gone. That's the biggest regret of my life, and of Anna's too. I keep thinking, if I had encouraged her to confess that day, maybe she wouldn't have lived with that regret all her life. I stood there, holding the photo, silent and motionless, until Sue's wife spoke again. This was the second boy Anna liked. I looked up, dazed, and saw her holding another frame. The photo was odd. There were no people, just two long shadows, like a couple's reflection. In the distance, there were lights stretching into the horizon, and it looked like fireworks were in the air. It must have been taken at night. Sue's wife sighed. Our Anna is a little silly, isn't she? Always hiding her feelings. She doesn't even dare to take a photo with the boy she likes, only his reflection. She added, I heard this was taken on Christmas Day. My heart stopped for a second. She continued, but that boy, too, is gone. He died in a car accident. I've always wondered if Anna is cursed. Every boy she likes ends up having a tragic fate. Small Wong, she said, her voice soft. We can see it. Anna likes you. Ever since you moved in, she's been acting, well, strange. We're sorry, but we just don't want history to repeat itself. Sue's wife placed the frame down, then sighed deeply. Last summer, Anna suddenly told me, Mom, I've found him again. I knew right away that she was in love again. I thought she'd bring him home to meet us, but she said, he doesn't like me. I told her, so what if he doesn't? As long as he's not married, there's still a chance. Maybe one day, he'll like you. But then, 4 months ago, she came back, lost and covered in blood. She said, the guy I liked, he's gone again. She was covered in blood. My head shot up, and a flash of a memory struck me. In my past life, I was crushed by a heavy truck in a bustling street. As my consciousness faded, I saw someone running toward me, stumbling, and holding my nearly broken body in their arms. Through the excruciating pain, I muttered, I'm done with this. I never want to go after someone again. I vaguely heard that person's trembling voice. Next life, come find me. Come pursue me, please. I finally understood. So, this was the truth. Chapter 32. After returning to my room, I waited for a long time before the system's voice, raspy and strained, finally spoke. No wonder there's an extra slot on your target list this time. It seems the main system was moved. Congratulations, host. This time's mission is practically a done deal. Barring any unexpected circumstances, the 10 billion reward is already within your grasp. Clearly, the system had overheard my conversation with Sue's wife. The thought that I no longer had to die and that the long-desired 10 billion was within reach left me strangely calm, my heart devoid of any overwhelming emotions. Actually, no. At this moment, there was only one thought occupying my mind. I needed to see Anna as soon as possible. Unfortunately, she had gone to South City the day before and wouldn't be back for an unknown period. I paced back and forth in my room, the longing in my heart growing wildly. Like weeds spreading out of control, I felt like I couldn't wait a second longer. I decisively pulled out my phone and called Secretary Lily. After getting the address, I started packing and booked my flight. At 8 p.m., I landed in South City and went straight to the hotel. While waiting for the elevator in the lobby, I was about to call Anna when I suddenly locked eyes with a very familiar face. What the hell? Willow was here too. I didn't feel like dealing with her. Speaking to her was just wasting my time. But clearly, she didn't think the same way. Willow stepped out of the elevator, a cold, self-assured smile on her lips. You actually came all the way here. Impressive. I shot her a cold look. In my first, second, and even third lives, I had truly liked her. The system had it wrong. It was me, not anyone else, who fell for my targets at first sight. I'd fallen for Willow the moment I met her in my second year of high school. I poured all my energy into approaching her, warming her heart, but it turned out that no amount of simping could make a difference. By the time my third life ended, I had given up on my feelings for her. My pursuit of her was now purely out of self-preservation, and the 10 billion reward was the only thing driving me. I spoke in a low voice. Is there something you want? Willow sneered. George, do you think I don't recognize you? I made myself clear last time. Stay away. You didn't listen, did you? She had recognized me. I didn't want to waste any more time talking to her or pretend I didn't know her. While pressing the elevator button, I replied, all right, I got it. Her lips curled slightly. It's really you. Huh. What a crazy woman. Was she out of her mind? Apparently, there were more people waiting for the elevator, and it wasn't arriving. Willow continued. George, I'll say it again, Makoto and I are about to get engaged. I hope you can get the message and stop clinging to me. It'll only make me more disgusted. I had no patience left for her nonsense. I grabbed my suitcase, intending to take the stairs instead, but as I passed, I tossed one last remark. Congratulations. She grabbed my sleeve. Willow's face was full of indignation. Don't you understand what I'm saying? You think you can make me jealous by hanging around Anna? Dream on. Before I knew it, I let go of my suitcase and, with a swift motion, picked her up. Slap, slap, slap. I slapped her twice on each cheek, before tossing her to the ground like trash. Willow was stunned. She covered her face, clearly not believing what had just happened. Well, I had chased her for 5 lifetimes, but I had never once laid a hand on her before. She screamed, George, have you lost your mind? She rushed at me and raised her hand to slap me, but I grabbed her wrist and stopped her. Her face was swollen, but her mouth was still defiant. George, if you have the guts, hit me again. I was about to snap and strike again when a voice suddenly interrupted. David. I turned around and saw Anna. She jogged a few steps to stand next to me. She glanced at the hand I was holding Willow's wrist with and asked, what's going on? I released my grip on Willow's wrist and answered, nothing, just handling some minor issues. Anna looked thoughtful for a moment before nodding and saying, let's go upstairs. I ignored Willow's expression and simply replied, sure. Chapter 33. Anna had booked a suite, as expected of Miss Sue, even if she was alone. She had to stay in such a big room. She asked, what brings you here all of a sudden? Before coming here, I had already spoken to Sue's mother and come up with an excuse. I smiled and replied, Sue auntie said you weren't feeling well this week, so I came to check on you and bring you some hot water. Anna gave me a puzzled look. You came all the way from the capital to bring me hot water? I nodded and handed her a thermos filled with red date ginger tea, a heating pad, and other things. Is there a problem? Anna shook her head lightly, still looking confused. I asked, so, Miss Sue, how have you been? She nodded dumbly without saying anything. I sneered, then said, as long as you're fine, I'll go book a room at the front desk. That's when she suddenly said, the hotel is fully booked. There's no room left. I sighed, rubbing my forehead. Then I'll check other hotels nearby. She urgently said, there's nowhere else. They're all fully booked. It's tourist season. Everything's reserved. I stared at her, speechless. So, did I come all this way for nothing? Where am I supposed to stay? She said, here. I looked at her. Here? She nodded. Yeah, I have extra rooms here. I finally understood. I awkwardly cleared my throat and asked, are you saying you want me to stay here? She looked at me with a pitiful expression and said, this big room. I'll be scared staying here alone tonight. I was speechless. Why did she even book such a big room then? What a lame excuse. I replied, all right. Anna's fair face turned pink, and she happily stood up. Then which room would you prefer? I'll go arrange it for you. Chapter 34. In the room. I opened my suitcase and began searching for clothes to change into. The system came online again and asked, host, have you decided to seal the deal tonight? I replied, no, it responded. But I see you're fully prepared. It was clearly just a leftover seasoning packet from the instant noodles I hadn't eaten. I said, I'm just here to talk with Anna. It replied, taking things slow is good, too. I said, system, can I ask you for a favor? It asked, what? I said, can you not come online tonight? It chuckled. Got it, buddy. I'm going offline now. I'll be as silent as if I've died. After washing my face, I walked out of the room. Anna was sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window, resting her chin in one hand as she gazed out at the distant ocean. She wore a beige knitted sweater and a black pleated skirt, her face bare, giving off a fresh and gentle aura. I couldn't tell if she had just taken a shower, but she seemed to be enveloped in a thin mist, like flower petals touched by morning dew. When she noticed me in the living room, Anna turned her head to look at me. She asked, are you going out? I didn't understand why she asked that. I shook my head. No. She stared at me intently, the light catching her features, and it seemed like she didn't quite believe me. I asked, "Why would I go out?" She responded, "Isn't it that you're going to see Willow?" I was speechless. So, she thought I came all the way here just to find Willow. I asked, "Isn't she your best friend?" "I'm not close to her, so why would I be looking for her?" Anna bit her lip and didn't say anything. I sighed and said, "Anna, let's talk." She suddenly looked up, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Her voice trembled as she asked, "You called me what, Anna? Or should I call you Sue?" "Miss Sue." She hesitated for a moment, then walked over and sat beside me. She tried to keep her voice calm as she gently asked, "Talk about what?" I had originally wanted to ask when she recognized me, but it seemed like I already knew the answer. I didn't know where to start at that moment. Just then, my phone rang. Although the name wasn't displayed, the number had already become muscle memory. I had no idea where they got my number from. I was about to hang up when Anna quickly said, "Don't answer it." I paused and deliberately asked, "Why?" Anna suddenly got angry, pouting. Not only did she hang up the call, but she also shut the phone off. She said, "Just don't answer it." I found it increasingly amusing and wanted to tease her. I said, "MS. Lou probably has something important to tell me. Should I go out and ask her?" When she saw me about to get up, she got even angrier. She tightly grabbed my arm and said through gritted teeth, "Don't go." I turned around and sat back down, but her grip on my arm pulled her into my embrace. Anna's face turned bright red, but she still didn't let go. She murmured, "Sorry, I didn't mean to." She must have just showered. She carried a faint scent of body wash. I wanted to get even closer to her. Even though we were already so close, it still didn't feel close enough. Looking at her face so near, with those flushed lips, I couldn't hold back any longer and kissed her. The next second, Anna froze, her entire body still as if she lost all awareness. It wasn't until I gently held her waist that she snapped back to reality. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me back passionately. I don't know how long we kissed, but I heard Anna breathlessly murmur my name. George. Old memories rushed in like a tide, and a pang of bittersweetness filled my chest. I slowly pulled back. I asked, "When did you recognize me?" Anna's eyes were reddened, and she melted into my embrace, her voice soft and affectionate. "The comic store." I had guessed as much. We didn't speak again, just holding each other in silence for a while. Anna suddenly looked nervous, as if she thought of something, and asked, "Will we?" I knew what she meant and shook my head. "Do you remember the last thing you said to me before I died in the previous life?" She stared at me, slowly realizing what I meant. She said, "Are you saying that this time, the protagonist is me?" I nodded. "Yes." Upon hearing that, Anna's eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end, she said nothing. Instead, she kissed me again. Chapter 35. After returning from South City, I decided to move out of Sue's house. Anna was furious and demanded, "Why?" I smiled bitterly and said, "From the company to home. We're basically together 24/7, and it's really affecting my work." She snorted. "I've waited for you for 5 lifetimes, and now we've only been together for 2 or 3 days, and you're telling me this?" Her words made me feel guilty, but at the same time, I couldn't help but soften. I could only hug her and gently reassure her. All right. I just thought maybe Sue Auntie might not like it if we lived together before marriage. Also, Anna's father had just returned from abroad recently. I was a bit worried if he thought his daughter had been taken advantage of. Even if he didn't say anything, the chairman's death stare would be unbearable. Anna replied, "My mom won't mind. She used to be critical of me, but now that I have a boyfriend, she's eager to get me married off." She buried her head into my chest, rubbing against me, and after a moment, she seemed to think of something. She asked, "Are you afraid of my dad?" I smiled politely and said, "How could I be? The chairman is so warm and understanding with his subordinates." She mischievously winked at me and didn't push the issue further. She said, "Then how about you move to Starlight City?" I asked. "Your best friend's place." Anna lifted her chin and pinched my arm. "It's mine, you big fool." Just as I was about to reply, she interrupted. "You can't refuse. Either live here, or live in Starlight City. Those are the only 2 choices," I responded. "Who says I want to refuse? Not having to pay rent and living in a big villa. Who would turn down such a great opportunity?" She leaned in to kiss me. We kissed for quite a while, both getting a little carried away. Since she was sitting on my lap, it didn't take long for me to get a physical reaction, and it was obvious that she noticed. Anna blushed and shyly asked, "George, is the system still with you?" I replied. "Yeah." She asked, "Has the system not been completed yet? Is it going to follow you forever?" I suddenly understood what she meant, and couldn't help but grin. "Don't worry, it won't be online all the time. Most of the time, it's offline." She sighed in relief and asked, How far along is it now? The system had told me yesterday, I said. 99%. She asked. Why isn't it 100%? I raised an eyebrow. Because there's just a little more to go. Anna's face turned even redder. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, trying to hide her embarrassment and fluster. Then I asked. Should we plan things out? I thought. The sooner I completed the mission, the sooner I'd get the 10 billion. Nothing wrong with that, she whispered. Okay. I was a little surprised and asked. You agree? This time, she nodded without saying anything. After a long pause, she quietly asked. Do you have a plan? I thought for a moment and answered seriously. I need to train my body properly so I can give you the best experience. Anna's face flushed again. Chapter 36. When they found out I was moving to Starlight City, Grandpa Sue and Mrs. Sue both expressed their support. They even said they would hire a few maids for me over there. I quickly refused. No need, Grandpa. I'll just hire some hourly workers when the time comes. Mrs. Sue tried to persuade Grandpa. Dad, young people don't like to have strangers around when they live together. Let them handle it themselves. Grandpa Sue chuckled and said, All right. If you don't want any maids, I won't insist. When you get hungry, just call, and I'll have the maids prepare something and send it over with the driver. The house in Starlight City wasn't as big as the old mansion, but it was well equipped and had everything needed, perfect for moving in right away. As soon as I moved in, Anna also came to live here. To reach my goal, I spent the past few days working out intensely at the gym after work. On Friday night, I had someone come over to prepare a romantic candlelit dinner at home and worked hard to make the master bedroom on the second floor feel warm and romantic. We both knew exactly what was going to happen. Everything fell into place. During dinner, neither of us ate much. We went upstairs, took a shower, brushed our teeth, and then started kissing passionately. As the lights flickered on, she shyly hid under the covers. The next moment, Anna suddenly peeked out, her eyes showing hesitation, followed by a hint of embarrassment. I asked her, What's wrong? She looked aggrieved and said, Darling, it seems my period started early. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I had already undressed, and now she tells me this. I was pale, and my mood plummeted. Anna hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, George, I didn't know. Seeing her looking so shattered, I patted her little head to comfort her. It's all right. Good things come to those who wait. Let's try again next time. Anna looked up at me with a pitiful face, then gently kissed my lips, her small hands not staying idle. In the end, her lips traveled downward. After a long while, she finally looked up, her eyes glistening with tears as she asked, Is it good now? I touched her face and said, All right. Let's go to sleep now. No way. You're lying. She nuzzled my palm, her voice tantalizing. I want to see your unreserved affection. Chapter 37. The day the system left me was a very sunny day. Looking at the string of zeros behind the one in my account, I almost couldn't count them. It said, Host, congratulations. You're just an ordinary person now. Live your life well from now on. I just closed the panel, and your progress was already at 500%. This means that in these 5 lifetimes, Anna has always loved you. I've gained quite a reputation among my colleagues. They said they've never seen such a high progress index before. The main system has assigned me a new host, and I'm about to start a new task. I felt a little sentimental and didn't know what to say for a moment. We had been together for so long. The system felt like an old friend. I said, System, thank you for your company all this time. I wish you success. May you reach great heights and complete your new tasks soon. A low battery warning echoed in my mind. It said, All right, buddy, I really have to leave this time. By the way, due to your excellent performance in this task, I've requested a 5-lifetime bond for you and Anna from the main system. They've agreed. Chapter 38. On Emma's birthday, Anna invited me to join her. She then seriously introduced me to everyone. When Willow saw Anna intimately hugging my arm, she lost control and rushed over to slap Anna. I grabbed her wrist again, but this time, I didn't let her off easy. I slapped her hard across the face, sending her tumbling to the ground. This stirred up a big mess. Mary stood up and tried to push me, but I was merciless, and with a loud slap, I sent her back to her seat. Alicia couldn't sit still either. She walked over, scolding me. How can you hit a woman? Are you even a? Before she could finish, I stepped in and gave her my 3rd slap. I said, My slaps are only for women. I glanced at Luna, who was trembling and gestured a zip motion with her hand. I nodded happily. Willow's eyes were bloodshot as she covered her face, her expression filled with anger. Anna, you pretentious coquette, stealing someone else's boyfriend. Don't you have any shame? Do you know who he is? Anna didn't want to bother with her, probably afraid I'd get into trouble. She walked over, gently tugged on my sleeve, and said, Let's go. I took her hand and turned to leave. Behind us, Willow screamed hysterically. Anna, if you walk out this door, I will never be your friend again. Someone turned back, coldly scoffing. Then I'm leaving for sure. I've wanted to cut ties with you 1,000 years ago. As soon as we left the clubhouse, Willow chased after us. She blocked my path, her expression broken, eyes filled with pain. George, you're just leaving like this. Aren't you afraid of dying again? If you leave Anna now, I'll consider being with you. I'm serious. I looked at the woman in front of me. I never expected the rumor about the love-stricken woman chasing after her men would happen to me, but it was only after I had died 5 times. Truly, delayed love is cheaper than grass. I sneered and said, Willow, didn't you notice that in this life, I've never once sought you out? My target has never been you. Stop pestering me. Let it go. She looked like she'd been struck by lightning, frozen in place. She was so stunned that her expression froze, and she didn't react for a long time. When she saw I was about to leave, she instinctively grabbed my arm, her voice trembling with fear. It's impossible. If it's not me, then who could it be? Then she seemed to realize something, and her gaze quickly turned to Anna. Her eyes were full of disbelief. Anna rolled her eyes in disdain and kept walking forward, holding my hand. But Willow suddenly grabbed me, her body trembling uncontrollably, her voice hoarse as she said, George, dare you tell me that all these 5 lifetimes, you've only approached me for the mission and never actually liked me? I chuckled softly. What's so hard to admit? That's how it is. You know what you're like. A stone in a latrine, both stinky and hard. If it weren't for the rewards, would I have clung to someone like you? Thank goodness, in this life, I've finally escaped from you. Don't try to look pitiful in front of me. I'll vomit. Anna looked at me, her eyes sparkling. The next moment, in front of Willow, she said, Honey, you're really good at scolding people. Extra chapter 39. Before Willow could explode, I quickly grabbed Anna and left. Once we were in the car, she snuggled up against my shoulder and said, As expected of you, George. That really felt good to hear. I asked, Are you really okay with this? She responded, What do you mean? I said, Didn't you two know each other since you were little? Anna shook her head and said, If it weren't for you, I would have cut ties with her a long time ago. I was genuinely curious, so I asked, When did you realize who I really am? She fell silent for a moment. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were captivating, and then she said, The 3rd time you appeared around Willow, I saw a strange story in a magazine, something about systems and their targets. The article said that every world has a main system, and underneath the main system, there are many subsystems. Each subsystem is bound to a host, and together they complete the tasks assigned by the main system. Any host who fails to complete their mission is doomed to die repeatedly and reincarnate under a different identity, appearing again beside their target. It was strange, but I didn't doubt what the article said at all. The moment I read it, I thought of you. I remembered your bizarre death in the 1st lifetime, and then I recalled the 2nd lifetime when you greeted me in the bookstore. You weren't the same person, yet somehow, you felt so familiar. At first, I just suspected, but later, I quietly paid attention to you, observed you, and even followed you. I was speechless. She had been keeping an eye on me, observing me, following me, and I had no idea. I asked, So, what happened after that? Anna gently nudged me and said, Later, you got drunk one time and sat alone at a barbecue stall, ranting for an hour. You kept saying things like, I never want to be a target again in my next life, and, whoever wants the reward can have it. It was then that I finally confirmed who you were. I vaguely remembered getting drunk during the 3rd lifetime when I was targeting Willow and running into Anna, but I didn't recall much after that. So that's how it was. I felt a bit awkward. We drove back home. I remembered that Emma had mentioned Anna's birthday was only 10 days after hers. So, Anna's birthday was coming up too. Excited, I asked her what she wanted as a gift, but she simply snuggled into my arms, squeezed my arm, and stood on tiptoe to kiss the corner of my lips, saying, As long as it's from you, I'll love it. I replied, That's not enough. You have to tell me what you want, no matter how expensive. After all, I was pretty loaded now. She asked, George, did you make a fortune? I replied, Of course. I got the reward for completing the mission. She asked, Mission reward? How much is it? I was speechless. How did we end up on this topic? I proudly said, 10 billion. Anna's eyes turned red as she heard this. She took out a card from her bag, handed it to me, and said with a pitiful voice, George, here's this card for you. I looked at her, confused, and asked, What do you want me to do with this card? Anna's voice trembled slightly as she said, I just didn't expect that George would die so many times for such a small amount of money. I'm so upset. From now on, just use this card from your future wife. Spend as much as you want. I was speechless. What kind of plot was unfolding here? And what about the box of gold bars last time? Was I dreaming? I thought I had become more confident, but now I felt oddly humbled. I nervously asked, "So, how much is on this card?" Anna thought for a moment and then said, "It's not much, maybe about 10 times the amount of your reward." "All right, not much." She was really being modest. I suddenly felt pained as a poor man with only 10 billion. The next second, she suddenly hugged me, looked at me seriously, and said, "George, I'm sorry." I asked, "Why are you saying sorry again?" She spoke slowly. "If I had agreed to be with you earlier and just given you 10 times the amount, would you have avoided all this suffering?" I gritted my teeth and forced a smile. "Silly girl, none of those sufferings were in vain because, in the end, I waited for you." Extra Willow Chapter 40. Willow's car accident happened when she learned that George and Anna were engaged. She was driving home when a sudden notification popped up in her group chat, 99 plus new messages. She opened one and immediately understood the reason for the commotion in the group. After reading the message, Willow felt like the ground had slipped out from under her. The jealousy burning inside her almost consumed her. For the past 5 lifetimes, George had followed her around like a dog, never even glancing at other women. Her friends were all envious of her. Although George was a strategist, he was exceptional in every way. In every life, he was the perfect boyfriend in her mind, considerate, warm-hearted, artistic, mature. Especially in the 5th life, those tender nights, he was amazing. He almost made her forget Makoto and almost made her want to give herself to him. But in the end, she shook her head. George was just a strategist. Yes, he was a monster, and this monster's fate was in her hands. George would forever be her simp, always trying to please her. He could never love another woman. His eyes could only have one person in them, Willow. In the 5th life, on Chiefing Mountain, she was still considering whether or not to accept George's confession. But when she casually turned around and saw him glance at another woman while speaking, Willow's anger flared up instantly. How could George look at another woman? It was disgusting. It was shameless. Maybe at night, he would think about that woman's face and do disgusting things. So, when George confessed to her, she mercilessly rejected him and mocked him harshly, saying, "George, stop pretending. Even if you turn to ash, I'll still recognize you. Honestly, I wouldn't be with you even if I jumped off here." She wanted to treat this rejection as a punishment for George. Let's see if he dares to look at another woman again. His eyes could only have one person in them, Willow. After all, George couldn't die. Even if he failed his mission, in 2 months, he'd be back by her side, eager to please her. As expected, 3 days later, she received the news that George had been crushed by a truck in the bustling city streets. When she first heard it, a slight pang of pain shot through her heart. Being crushed by a truck must have been painful. It seemed that every time, he died a tragic death. But then, she remembered that he had looked at another woman on the mountain. It was disgusting. Forget it. He brought it upon himself. Hopefully, this time he could complete the mission and not piss her off again. Maybe when she was in a better mood, she'd agree to be with him. But Willow never expected to be wrong. George was going to marry another woman. How could that be? His target was always supposed to be her. Why Anna? Why? Why? A tidal wave of regret hit her all at once. Willow angrily honked the horn. She felt betrayed. The hatred peaked, and in a fit of frustration, she stomped on the gas pedal. As she turned the corner, Willow was blinded by a sudden flash of light. Then, a loud crash. After that, everything went black. When she woke up, Willow realized that she was no longer Willow. She was now called Misty, a mixed-race beauty. What the hell? But when she saw her reflection in the mirror, a wave of fear spread through her body. The face staring back was completely unfamiliar. What's going on? What happened? At that moment, her mind began to buzz like an old TV with a poor signal, malfunctioning. After a splitting headache, everything went quiet. Then, a clear mechanical voice sounded. "Congratulations. Host 238, you have successfully bound the system. Target characters, a Makoto B. David." Willow finally realized what had happened. She had become a strategist. David. She remembered now. David was George's name in his 6th life. The immense joy almost knocked her out. Without hesitation, she chose David. She decided that this time, she would go after him herself. Chapter 41. System 238 was utterly speechless. Completely speechless. She had lost track of how many times she had advised this idiotic host to change their target, but the host just wouldn't listen. She had died 15 times. 15 times. Did this person have a self-destructive tendency? No. This was beyond self-harm. She had died in every possible way, suffocated, drowned, in car accidents, poisoned. She had experienced almost every type of death, but each time she was reborn, she would always choose the same target, David. Yes, that was the name of her target. Sue's group heiress Anna's husband. She couldn't understand why her host had the audacity to repeatedly try to steal someone else's husband. She said, "Host, I advise you to change your target. I just consulted the main system. David and Anna have a 5-life bond. In this life, the next, the one after that, and the one after that one, they will always be together. They are destined to be together. If you don't change your target, you will die hundreds, even thousands of times. I'm telling you this for your own good." Upon hearing this, host 238 was stunned. A 5-life bond. Is it true? So, she and George had no possibility of being together anymore. No, she didn't believe in fate. What 5-life bond? What destined couple? She didn't believe it. Since Anna could steal her boyfriend, she could certainly steal him back. She swore to herself she would get George back. A menu appeared in front of her, displaying, "Host, please choose your target. A. Makoto B. David." Without hesitation, she pressed B. The system let out a frustrated scream. "Oh, have you lost your mind? If you're going crazy, don't drag me into it. Help, someone save me. How do I unlink from this host? I can't take it anymore. Help me."